Good morning. Ooh. It has been a very intense, crazy week for me. So last Sunday I checked in with you right before I was getting ready to go out into Oregon Pipe National Forest. And all was well, very excited, got out there, which is in Arizona, really close to the Mexico border. It borders Mexico, this huge park. And I had stopped at the visitor center and paid my dues and then drove 10 miles out on the dirt road to a fairly famous, notable trailhead. So the Arch. Anyways, and then I get there and lots of people, and I wanted to film yoga classes and take pictures and do all the things. And so I was like, well, I'm just not gonna, it's a fairly short trail into this canyon. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna go, excuse me, out this other direction away from the people so I can have my privacy, so I'm not interfering with people. And it looks, like I could just sort of... Anyway, so I start to go, lock up everything, get my gear, and it's like crazy thick vegetation and just like pushing. It was more intense getting through this washy area, and it wasn't just like one wash. It was like all these little fingery fed and very thick and cat claw and jojoba and anyways, it was just like, I just need to get through, made it through, and like videoing and hike way up, and then I was like, oh, and then I saw a great spot to film, hike back down, and I set up and did the classes. And by this time you could sort of see far away the parking line. Looked like everyone had left, and I like finished up my stuff, and then it was like quite the chore getting back. I was like, I'm gonna go this other way, which didn't really end up being a whole lot. Anyways, so I drop me out on the road, and I get to the truck, and I was like, all right, let's go. I need to get going. And sorry, you're gonna be a little bit late getting home, and start to look for the keys, and no keys. So I just put out the behind the scenes day one on Patreon, getting to Ajo, and sort of like this like beginning, like I think this will be like the theme of the trip. And when things, it's nice when things go your way, but when they don't, like like that's when you're really tested to see, what are you made of, right? Like, and then this happens in the middle of nowhere with no... Oh, I was like, tearing it apart, the pack apart over and over, and then like, crap, like, what do I do? And I was like, well, I just need to go. So I went back out to see if I could find them and to hike a little bit higher to hopefully get some phone reception. And so didn't find them, and like, so I'm at the top, and I was able to make some phone calls, so that right there was like, because I really knew it wasn't an emergency per se. Like, I had water and food. I had my bin in the back of the truck, thank goodness, because I had locked the truck. So, and I had some stuff in it that could get me through or whatever. So I was like, all right. And then when I was able to make the phone call, I was like, okay, well, the people are aware that I'm out here. I'm not going to be stuck overnight, because it was, getting close to the evening, and I wouldn't have been able to hike out. It was too many miles, and it's not really the safest area because of being right there on the border. So you really want to be stuck, and I didn't have like warm stuff. So if I had to stay, I would have survived, but I would have been cold. Anyway, so so then I was like, all right, I had gone out again, and then I was like, oh, wait up the truck, because they're going to send somebody. Anyways, and the park ranger, police guy pulls up, and I'm like, and then some maybe like office worker, I'm not really sure. So these two people pull up, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, and you know, really nice, because you know, sometimes when you deal with like people of authority, they want to like lecture you, tell you, you know, obviously, like I know it's dumb, and I feel I'm like reaping the consequences, and he's like, well, let's go back out and, you know, look, where'd you go? You know, thinking probably that I just like took the trail like a normal person, but I was like, oh, you know, you see that rock way out, and I'm like sort of up there and then down, and anyways, we ended up going out and trying to find the keys, and it was just such a, I'm sure it was in that like crazy thick part, because it was just like you were just pushing through nonsense, and there's these boulders, and I don't know. It was quite crazy, quite intense. And so, you know, my arms were all, I was wearing these like yoga pants though. They were like wintery, or I totally held up through all of that. I was so, I was totally shocked by these these yoga pants, because usually I've been like tore up and everything's thorny out there. Anyways, so didn't find it, and then I got to ride in the back of a cop car on the way out another 10 miles, and he was like a dog, so there was like so I was just like in this little, I couldn't even take all my stuff because he had like so much gear, and so I'm just like, it was just kind of like a crappy for sure way to end the trip. And he took me to the visitor, they dropped me at the visitor center, and I waited another couple hours, kind of being chilly and trying not to feel too sorry for myself. But you know, the whole time I'm like, let's just not, right? Like, I carried on about being tested, so like, how can I get through this without turning to mush, you know, or, you know, they're like, and it was just like kept coming back to like, you know, maybe something was more wrong, you know, but really, like, I had, like, the communication with people, like, I had food and water, like, my little, like, all this stuff in my bin, and, you know, like, everything would have been okay, and maybe I would have been, if I had to stay overnight, I would have been uncomfortable, but that just, like, wasn't, it didn't even happen that way. So I got picked up, and it's about 3 hours from my house. I go back the next day, and then have a locksmith come all the way out there, make keys, because I didn't have a spare set of keys, and I do now. And then it's also giving me a chance to kind of like think about things like how would I have liked to be better prepared, because it's not going to be the last time I'm out in the middle of nowhere, you know, like, so, and then, you know, I was able to hike up the canyon the next day, and really just, like, tried to make the best of every moment, and then even, you know, I was, like, quoted an original price, and I'm like, okay, I can handle this, and like, I'm just going to keep on handling this no matter, like, what keeps going wrong, and then, like, it's just like, oh, I didn't realize it was that far. And then it was like more than even double the original price, and I'm like, holy cow. But you know, there's no options. At least I had the means to take care of it. At least my vehicle's nice enough to, you know, I think if you're like in my last car, it would have been like, well, just leave it. Like, it's not even like cover the value, you know, but, and then super grateful that no one messed with my truck overnight, you know, like there wasn't, any, yeah, I don't know, you know, just trying to see the best in everything, and again, with sort of like my continued intention to try to think that, oh, universe is always working in my favor, you know, like there, you know, whatever the reason, maybe I don't know, like, that needed to happen in my favor, you know, like, who knows, so that makes me feel better about it, and all's well. Anyway, so that was Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, I had to drive to like another extra time to take one of the goats. So I did end up finding a home for that baby boy from the last batch of goats, and dropped him in Casa Grande. I went to work, and then we had Wednesday, then Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, what happened Wednesday? Oh, I had a guy come out to trim buck hooves, so I was wrestling with bucks. And then we went to the neighbors and tried to help their goats, and so it's just been like non-stop. And so Friday and Saturday I've just been editing, trying to get caught up by cleaning the house and just doing all the things, and life's been crazy. So, it can't be that way all the time, so maybe we'll mellow out a little bit. We'll see, hopefully. If not, potatoes dried, right? Like, I feel like when you handle things poorly, the universe sends it back for you to try again. So I was like, maybe I just, try not to cry, or, there was this moment, and, you'll see in the little bit of the video, I was like, I don't have my keys. But managed and got through, and I think in fairly good spirits through the whole thing. Don't think I made anyone's lives miserable, and I had people helping me, and I'm very grateful for them. So moving along, this coming week, tomorrow, starts our 21 Days of Darkness little series. I'm doing 21 Days to the Solstice program on Patreon for the Yogis tier and above. So like just $10 a month, or the extra higher tiers, you get all the other things. But if you just want to be a part of that program, I'm just putting stuff out every day, little like 5-10 minute snippets, and there'll be like a chat going, so I can like communicate with people. I don't know, we'll see how that goes. If people want to engage, then I will be there. So that's on Patreon. World Leaves Patreon this week on what's coming out. There'll be a yoga class on YouTube, and I'm trying to think if there's a behind the scenes. There might be. I just released the day 2 of the Huachuca Mountain, so that was sort of a pretty kind of going down the canyon, and then hopefully from here on out they should get better, the camera quality a little bit better. And then on Patreon we just released the Aho Day 1, and so this week will be behind the scenes in Cabeza Preta Wildlife Refuge. So that was where I went the day before. Oh, and I'm so grateful because it got really rainy the rest of the day. I didn't have a poncho, so I would have been a little slightly prepared, but that would have been another level of uncomfortability. So grateful that it wasn't raining when I got stranded. So if you want to join up, that'll be starting tomorrow on Patreon, Days of Darkness, and yoga classes, really all the normal shenanigans. And I did have a few questions here. Oh, of course, everything shut down. All right, here we go. Did that. Okay. Do I have to be a member of Exotic Systems to do the Solstice program? No. On Patreon, I have the Yogi's Choice, and then there's like the Exotic Systems tier, and then coaching, and you just have to join the lowest one for the month, which is $10. And then and that also gets you about like the current behind the scenes and the yoga. The Exotic Systems has that class that I'm developing, as well as the personal practices. So it's a little bit different. And then I got this and I was like, oh man, it was like, what's your most embarrassing moment related to yoga? And when I say oh man, it's because there's something that just immediately popped in my head, but it's really embarrassing. And anyway, so let's set the scene. So imagine I was taking a yoga class a little more in the beginning of my yoga career. I was in downtown Tucson in this studio, or this class was like a Saturday morning, like 2.5 hour, like in an advanced yoga class. And I wasn't really advanced, but I was pretending, and I knew the teacher, so I was I was inspired to like get better. Anyways, there was only like smallish room, and maybe like 6 or 7 people there, and like all lined up in a row, and and we were beginning to work on like handstands, and so I like kick up and then come down, and queefed like it's so loud, like it sounded so loud in there, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then like, we're like, I was like, maybe it was like a fluke or something. Like kick up, and I'm like, again, and like I was like, we had it was this whole class of like an inversion and then like at some point I like just like gave up, because I was so, everyone, it would have been better, I think, people would have like actually acknowledged that, but it was like dead silence. And yeah, and I think I've since learned it has to do with like engagement and all these things. Doesn't it doesn't happen anymore. But for a while I just refused to do that in class because I just found it it was a lot. Anyways, so queefing and yoga, but like not just once, but like several times, and like no one else. Anyways, and this is the quietness of it all. Like we're just pretending we didn't hear that at all, and that's polite and everything. I guess I should have made light of it. Probably would have eased the tension in the room, but holy cow, I was much younger and it was horrifying, and never again. So that would be my most embarrassing moment. So I think that covers everything. I'll get off here for our Sunday update. Yep, usual things coming out. Major excitement is that 21 Days of Darkness starting on Patreon. But otherwise on YouTube, the yoga classes, and then the slightly behind the scenes. All right, until next week.